Walking across? We'll walk with you. You going across?
Mighty, mighty nurses.
Mighty, mighty nurses.
Everywhere we go.
Everywhere we go.
People want to know.
People want to know who we are. Who we are.
Hey, Teresa.
So we tell them.
I need them to come with me.
Mighty union nurses.
Mighty union nurses.
What kind of power? Nursing. Who's got the power? What kind of power?
Nursing power.
Who's got the power?
Got the power.
What kind of power?
Nursing power.
Who's got the power?
We got the power.
What kind of power?
Nursing power.
Who's got the power?
We got the power.
What kind of power?
Union power.
Who's got the power?
We got the power.
What kind of power?
Union power.
Who's got the power?
We got the power.
What kind of power?
Nursing power.
Who's got the power?
We got the power.
What kind of power?
Nursing power.
Who's got the power?
We got the power.
What kind of power?
Nursing power.
Who's got the power?
We got the power.
What kind of power?
Nursing power.
Who's got the power?
We got the power.
What kind of power?
Nursing power.
Who's got the power?
We got the power. What kind of power? Nursing power. We got the power. What kind of power? Who's got the power? We got the power. What kind of power? Nursing power. Who's got the power? We got the power. What kind of power? Nursing power. We are the nurses under attack. What do we do?
Stand up like that!
We are the nurses under attack. What do we do?
Stand up like that!
We are the nurses under attack. What do we do?
Stand up like that!
We are the nurses under attack. What do we do?
Stand up like that!
Who's got the power? What kind of power?
Nursing power!
Who's got the power?
We got the power!
What kind of power?
Union power!
Who's got the power?
We got the power!
What kind of power?
Nursing power!
Who's got the power?
We got the power!
What kind of power?
Union power!
What are the nurses? We are the nurses under attack. What do we do?
Stand up like that!
We are the nurses under attack. What do we do?
Stand up like that!
Everywhere we go, people want to know
People want to know
who we are. So we tell them we are the nurses, mighty union nurses. Everywhere we go, people want to know. Mighty union nurses. Everywhere we go, people want to know who we are. So we tell them we are the nurses, mighty union nurses. Everywhere we go, people want to know
People want to know
who we are.
who
People want to know who we are. So we tell them we are the nurses. Mighty union nurses. Who's got the power? What kind of power? Who's got the power? What kind of power? Who's got the power? What kind of power? What do we do? We are the nurses under attack. What do we do? Patients, non-profit. Patients. Patients. Patients, non-profits. Everywhere we go, people want to know who we are. So we tell them. We are the nurses. Everywhere we go. So we tell them. We are the nurses. Mighty union nurses. Who's got the power? What kind of power? Who's got the power? What kind of power? We are the nurses under attack. What do we do? We are the nurses under everywhere we go, people want to know who we are. So we tell them we are the nurses, mighty union nurses. Everywhere we go, people want to know who we are.
Join us!
So tell them we are the nurses. Mighty union nurses. Who's got the power? What kind of power? Who's got the power? What kind of power? We are the nurses under attack. What do we do? We are the nurses under attack. What do we do? Patients. Patients. Everywhere we go, people want to know who we are. So we tell them we are the nurses. Mighty union nurses. Everywhere we go, people want to know who we are. So we tell them we are the nurses.
Learn not to get upset and just work with the flow. Don't make no sense. Get up.
Who's got the power? What Stand up like that. We are the nurses under attack. What do we do? We are the nurses under attack. What do we do? Patience. Patience!
Not profit!
Everywhere we go! People want to know! Who we are! Go tell them! We are the nurses!
We're going to get started. We're going to get started soon, so we want to line up.
People want to know who we are. So we tell them. We are the nurses. Mighty union nurses. Fighting for our patients.
What kind of power?
Union power.
Who's got the power?
We got the power.
What kind of power?
Union power.
Everywhere we go,
People want to know
people want to know
who we are.
who we are.
So we tell them.
So we tell them.
We are the nurses. Mighty union nurses. Fighting for our patients. Fighting for community.
Well, I had the hoodie on and I was able to take it off, so.
I don't know, I'm still cold.
It's,
This is not big enough.
we forgot, it actually turned into winter for a change.
We are the nurses under attack. What do we do? Stand up, fight back.
Right across the street.
Allies for nurses. What do we do? Stand up, fight back.
You start. You should start, Rachel.
Good afternoon, mighty nurses. I want to thank all of our nurses, especially from other Central Coast hospitals that came with us to support us, and our community and fellow union members for coming out today. My name is Rachel Betancourt, and I'm a registered nurse here at Salinas Valley Memorial. I'm also a newly proud public sector union nurse. This month. Unfortunately, there's a number of forces that would like nothing more than to undermine and even get rid of our unions because of our powerful voices for patient care and standards and protections for nursing practices. One such threat to not just the nurses, but all public sector unions is why we are gathered here today. Nurses all over the country are holding this rally today. It's such an important event that even Senator Bernie Sanders showed up to our Chicago rally. Woo-hoo! The Supreme Court case Janus versus AFSCME aims to weaken the collective voices of union nurses and union workers everywhere. Janus is intended to weaken public sector unions by encouraging employees in ununionized public sector workplaces to not pay dues while they still enjoy the rights and benefits of a union, contract, and representation. The Supreme Court hearing of Janus versus AFSCME will take place this Monday, February 26, 2018. It's a direct assault on a union's nurses' ability to advocate for their patients. Today, union nurses are standing in solidarity with their union sisters and brothers to send a clear message. Our collective efforts will not be undermined by a Supreme Court decision. Thousands of public hospital union nurses have signed a pledge to stay as union dues-paying members, regardless of the outcome of Janus versus AFSCME. We commend the strength and solidarity of union nurses everywhere. We want to acknowledge and thank all of our union nurses who are standing and in solidarity today, as well as members in the community who are here accompanying us. Now, let's get started. Our first speaker today is Molly McCarty, Critical Care Department RN from here at Salinas Valley. Let's give Molly a big hand.
Good afternoon, and thank you to all our CNA nurses, community allies, and fellow union members who came out to show support for us today. My name is Molly McCarty. I've been a registered nurse for almost 40 years, and I worked here at SBMH for 30. I care for patients in the critical care areas, step-down, telemetry, and at times in the medical surgical units. Most of the time, my patients are really very sick. We are here today because the Supreme Court will soon be hearing a case, Janus versus AFSCME, that threatens the ability for nurses to safely speak out for patient care. I was asked to speak about how the work of SBMH's California Nurses Association, our union, has affected the care I am able to provide my patients here. Staffing ratios, staffing to the patient's acuity, and cluster cluster staffing, that is, only being required to work in the areas in which I have current, sound, skill sets, and up-to-date competencies, are examples of the union-driven initiatives that directly affect each of the patients that we care for. As a longtime nurse here at SVMH, I could never have been able to safely provide critical care to our patients without key CNA legislation and numerous contract protections my fellow nurses and I have collectively bargained for over the years. Without a doubt, California Nurses Association's ratio law have been fundamental in ensuring that RNs have safe assignments of the number of patients they are assigned to care for at any given time. Our union nurses' hard work at winning this landmark law opened the door for union RNs in many states across the country to establish similar legislation that does the same thing. CNA nurses have also won legislation and contract knowledge that is specific to staffing by patient acuity, or about how sick a patient is. Our union contract outlines what kinds of specialty skills an RN needs to have and what kinds of resources she or he will need to safely care for specific patients in every situation, 24 hours a day, and 365 days a year. Unlike non-union hospitals, where management can simply retaliate against a nurse for speaking out to support these standards and advocate for safe patient care, our public sector CNA union RNs here at Salinas and in other CNA hospitals can use a powerful written form discoverable in a court of law that enables us to stand up when we, as registered nurse bedside clinicians, assess our patients and assess our work conditions to be unsafe. These are known as assignment despite objection forms. These documents have served as legal protections for our patients and nurses alike in several well-known cases across California and the nation in the CNA-represented hospitals. In closing, to my fellow union nurses, I urge you to pledge today to continue our work, standing united for our patients. Let the billionaires and pro-corporate forces know that we, as public sector nurses, will never be silenced or divided when it comes to our patients, our union, our practice, and our profession. And to my community, my message is, despite the Supreme Court case, your SVMH RNs will be here to fight for you, to assure you have great, knowledgeable, appropriate care. As registered nurses, it is our science, our art, and our calling to stand up together to improve the health of our communities. Unions really do help protect our patients, our families, and the American dream. Thank you. Solidarity.
Thanks to our own Molly McCarty. Very true and powerful. Next up, we have Courtney Perinello, RN from Hazel Hawkins. Thanks to Courtney for making the trip and standing with us today.
Thanks to all my fellow CNA union nurses here in Salinas and the Central Coast, to our great community allies, to other union brothers and sisters who took the time out to stand in solidarity with our union nurses, and to the Salinas community. My name is Courtney Perinello, and I am a registered nurse from Hazel Hawkins Memorial Hospital in Hollister. I have worked at Hazel Hawkins for 15 years now, and I am a charge nurse in the emergency department of our public district hospital. Because we are situated in a rural area of San Bernardino County with the nearest hospitals more than 30 minutes away, Hazel Hawkins is a vital public resource for our often vulnerable patient populations, including the elderly, expectant mothers, children and infants, as well as patients with emergent care needs. In our ER particularly, it is also a safety net for for many of our community members who may not be able to afford access healthcare in any other way. And I can truly say that despite the often fast-paced and stressful job of an ER nurse, there's really no other place that I feel at home. But I am also here to state very clearly that without the hard-fought rights and protections my fellow nurses and I have won through the collective strength of our union with CNA, I would not be able to advocate for or give the kind of care my patients and neighbors deserve as a human right. Like my union colleagues have clearly stated, my legal and ethical duty as a registered nurse to advocate for and protect my patients is under a direct and blatant attack due to the Supreme Court case known as Janus versus AFSCME, the so-called right to work law set to be heard on February 26th of this month. Let me repeat that for everyone. My ability to perform my legal and ethical duty under the California Nursing Practice Act and law to advocate for and give the quality care my patients count on me for is under a direct threat by a corporate-backed Supreme Court ruling that could force the entire United States and all public sector unions, and that includes firefighters, teachers, and police officers, into a dangerous, exploited situation. As a CNA public sector registered nurse, I am here to say that I will not allow the billionaire and anti-work forces behind this case to come between my patients, my practice, and my fellow nurses. I want to share some important facts about how my union protects my rights to advocate for patients, ensures the safety of my nursing practice, and keeps the community I live in and care for safe from those who would seek to put profit before the care that I am ethically and duty-bound to provide. As a union nurse in California, I know my employer cannot put my patients and my license at risk by assigning me an unsafe patient care load because CNA RN stood collectively and fought for more than a decade to win a mandated nurse-to-patient ratio in 2004, which have repeatedly been proven to save lives. As a union nurse, I know that my employer cannot silence my voice when I object to use of shoddy equipment, being floated to a department that I'm unfamiliar with, or retaliate against me when I stand up and advocate for my patients' rights because of the clear protections we have collectively bargained that prevents these kind of practices. As a union nurse, I also know that I cannot be forced to work 10, 12, or 14 hours without the proper rest between shifts because of key protections against this kind of exploitation. Non-union hospitals don't account for patient-to-nurse ratios. Non-union nurses cannot safely advocate for patients without the fear of retaliation or at-will termination. Non-union hospitals can put profit over patients and endanger the health and the well-being of our communities. I did not become a public sector nurse for prestige or high wages. I chose to work in a public hospital in the community where I live in and raise my family because I'm honored to see and know many of the patients that I care for as my neighbors. And just like the love and care I give my family, I am dedicated and honored to advocate and care for all the patients and neighbors who come into our ER doors. That is why I'm standing up, speaking out, and pledging in solidarity to all my fellow union nurses, regardless of this Supreme Court ruling or any other attack on our ability to give care to our patients that they deserve. I urge all my union nurses to pledge to do the same and let everyone know that when it comes to our patients, our practice, and each other, union nurses never back down. Thank you.
Incredible speech, Courtney. Thank you for underscoring some of our most important reasons the union nurses are able to care and advocate for our patients' safety as well as for the community. Our next speaker's name is Monica Benton. She's also from Hazel Hawkins. Let's give her a big round of applause.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, fellow union registered nurses, and thanks to all the community allies, other union leaders, and members of the community for joining us today at this press conference and rally to fight back against the Janus so-called right-to-work case at the United States Supreme Court. I also want to thank my fellow union nurses from here at Salinas Valley Memorial for letting me say a few words about just why it's so critical that we stand as strongly united as we can. And when it comes to protecting our union with the California Nurse Association. As y'all might be sort of kind of able to tell by my accent, I'm not originally from California. But if you can't tell, I'll just go ahead and tell you straight up that I'm originally from Texas. Thank you. My name is Monica Benton, and I'm a registered nurse at Hazel Hawkins in Hollister, just like Courtney. I work as a house coordinator. That means that I am responsible for coordinating the staffing patterns on a daily basis, patient care, rapid responses in the emergencies, and making sure our patients and nurses can do their jobs safely and smoothly each and every single day. I have been an RN at Hazel Hawkins for 6 years now, but it isn't so much my experience at Hazel Hawkins and as a unionized hospital that I kind of want to share a little bit about with myself today and with all of you. In fact, it's actually my original home state of Texas, and it's nearby neighbor, Louisiana, that I want to share some very scary but very true stories about. About 18 years ago, I was a certified rehabilitation registered nurse at a fairly large rehabilitation center in Texas. I had been at the facility for about 8 years. When I reported to work one day, I was told by my manager that because we were so short-staffed, I was suddenly going to be assigned 22 patients. For those of you who may not know about CNA Nurse Union Major Legislative Win for the nurse-to-patient ratio law back in 2004, I can tell you that an assignment of 22 patients to one nurse is extremely dangerous and an unacceptable situation. And while I pulled out the Texas Nurse Practice Act, I cited the page number, the verse, and the law that allowed me, as a Texas nurse at the time, to speak out about such a dangerous assignment, and that I did not feel comfortable taking that assignment for the safety of my patients and my own license. The manager just ignored it and said I could either do it or basically find a job elsewhere. I continued to object for the safety of my patients, and when I came to work the next day, the management told me I was being forced to switch from day shift to the overnight shift, knowing that I had a small son at home to care for and that the unilateral change to my hours would not work for me, and it was impossible for me to continue working there. But the fact is I had no rights, I had no protections, and I had just one voice. So I did what I had to do, and I moved 6 hours away from my hometown to Austin, Texas, to get another job to support my family. Without a union, I simply had no choice. Years later, I was living on the East Texas border in Texarkana and was forced to drive nearly 2 hours away from a large medical center in Louisiana just to make a living wage, even though I was very experienced, highly sought after, and professional registered nurse. It meant long hours away from my young child and my family, but once again I had no choice. One of those long drives after extremely long shifts, I fell asleep at the wheel. I had a very bad car accident. The injuries left me unable to work and with no rights or support from my employer at all. You see, without a union, I had no legal rights. I had no right to speak out. I had no fellow nurses standing alongside of me to win a collective voice at any bargaining table. After I recovered from the accident, I decided to take on a travel nurse position, and I ended up at a CNA hospital in Stockton, California. This time, I was sacrificed to be 1,800 miles away from my family, my young son, but I knew it was something I had to do. I literally could not believe the difference. The union nurses have won major protections for how we could speak up and care for our patients in ways I could never have imagined before. The nurses had collective bargaining rights to sit at the bargaining table with their boss, and and actually negotiate over practice as nurses, to have representation against disparate treatment, the threat of unjust disciplines, to earn a decent wage and benefits, and to care for my patients safely with mandated ratio laws. After that experience as a registered nurse sworn to legally advocate for my patients, I knew my next decision was going to be pretty easy. So I picked up my family and I moved to California. So I have been a proud CNA union nurse ever since 2006, and I consider it an honor to serve my patients, stand in solidarity with my fellow union nurses, and use our collective strength and voices as nurses to fight for issues that are important to my patients, fellow union nurses, and my community. If there is any message I can leave with folks here today, it is that without a union, everyone, and I mean everyone, loses. When union RNs bargain and organize for our contract improvements, even non-union nurses reap the benefits. When we win patient care, practice, compensation, and benefit standards in the Central Coast, non-union employers are forced to raise their standards to be able to hire and retain qualified nurses. And while workers, nurses or not, deserve a decent living wage and benefits, CNA RNs aren't just fighting for equitable pay. Our union has won laws that protect our patients and our public for the good. We believe that we will never stop advocating for health care as a human right, and not just for those who can simply afford it. So I can say without reservation today, and I want to echo what all of my sister union RNs have said here today, that if we do not stand up to these so-called right-to-work lies, our patients and public good will suffer. Our patients and nurses will not win any promised freedoms of speech or gain some imaginary political right. On the contrary, we stand to lose all of the vital protections of our public health and community services if we do not stand united against this false and corporate-backed assault. Take it from a Texan. Sign a pledge card, vow to stand together, and loud and strong for your union. Because we union RNs have a lot more work to do to make our patients, communities, and practice healthier and stronger. And I've got some news for the billionaire, pro-corporate backers of these right-to-work laws. We union nurses do not back down. And when it comes to our patients, and we will strive to fight for the rights and the health of everyone in our community. Thank you for letting me speak today.
Thank you, Monica. Super moving words. Next, I want to introduce Steve McDougall, the president of the Salinas Valley Federation of Teachers Union.
Give it up for Steve.
Cousins, community members, brothers and sisters alike, well, they've done it. Again, almost. They took a Supreme Court pick from our last president, who had a full year left, ran that case 2 weeks after they got their Supreme Court justice pick, and here we are today. Right to work? Right to work? Are you kidding me? Right to work for less. In the 28 right to work states, the average income is $8,000 less. In the right to work states, the 28 of them, the infant mortality rate is significantly higher than the non-right to work states. And the uninsured in the communities of right to work states are over 40% higher. Right to work for nothing. I'll tell you what, no matter what happens in Janus versus AFSCME, they will never take the union away from the teachers, the nurses. They will never do it. We'll come back stronger. We'll stay united, and we'll fight back, and we'll come back another day and give them a right hook. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Steve, and the teachers for coming out and standing in solidarity with our nurses today. Our next speaker is Mr. Felipe Hernandez from the Santa Cruz Board of Supervisors.
It's actually a Watsonville City Council member, and I am a candidate for the Santa Cruz County Board of Supervisors as well. But I'm here to talk about something else. I'm here to talk about Janus versus AFSCME, or the so-called right-to-work laws. You know, it has a deceptive name. It sounds like something that's beneficial. But don't be fooled by its deceptive name. It should be called right to exploit, because that's what it does. You know, the very essence, on the way I was reading some of the talking points, and I was thinking the very essence of this case, of these right-to-work laws, is to have my cake and eat it too. Or to get something for nothing. But when you think about it, where do these ideologies come from? Think about that for a minute. Or in other words, think about who's promoting and funding and bankrolling national right-to-work campaigns. Who's funding Janus for this campaign? For this case, I mean. You know, it's the billionaires, the corporations, the CEOs, the bankers, the greedy politicians. That's who's behind it. And what do they want to do? They want to fleece the workers. They want to have their cake and eat it too. They want to fleece the workers. They want to fleece workers' rights. And they want to fleece quality patient care. You know, the thing they want to do is they want to diminish organized labor. They want to scale back on workers' rights, but nurses aren't going to stand for that. Nurses got to stand together and fight for workers' rights. We will not let them divide us. Nurses will stick together and fight back for their union, for their rights, and for their patients. Thank you.
Many thanks to Watsonville City Council member Felipe Hernandez, longtime friend of CNA Union, the nurses union. Next, we will have a big thanks to the supervisor Luis Alejo from Monterey Board of Supervisors. The union.
All right. Thank you. All right. Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Supervisor Luis Alejo, the chairman of the Monterey County Board of Supervisors. I'm proud to stand with my brothers and sisters of California Nurses Association. Let's give them a big round of applause, everybody. I'm also the son of a proud union registered nurse, the proud grandson of an activist in the farm workers movement. My father, my aunts and uncles were all union organizers, so I stand before you as a product of the labor movement. And I wanted to really come here, not only to stand with my nurses, not only to stand with their patients, but also to stand with their children, their families, and their communities, because this is the greatest threat against organized labor in decades. Janus versus AFSCME, which will be debated in front of the U.S. Supreme Court next Monday. The decision is likely to come out by the end of June. But as Felipe said, this is not a right-to-work law. This is a right-to-hurt workers law. And it's going to hurt our labor movement. And as Felipe also said, we all know who's behind it. Those corporate billionaires, those corporations that are greedy and are trying to trample on our workers and their families. So I want to invite you to join me to bring more people here. We have to organize, we have to fight back. This is a time where we need our elected officials to stand with organized labor, our labor unions, and our nurses. I just want to say this, come March 13th, the Monterey County Board of Supervisors will be one of the first counties in the state of California that's going to pass an America Needs Union resolution. Because this is a time where our supervisors, our city councils need to say this is going to be a devastating impact to our families here on the local level and across our Golden State. Just like the words of Robert Kennedy once said, that where unions are strong, the cause of social justice is advanced. And where unions are weak, our whole society suffers. Are we going to fight back? Are we going to organize? Are we going to bring out our families? Thank you very much. I'm standing solidarity. Muchas gracias. Luis Alejo. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Supervisor Alejo. Next, inviting San Bernardino County Board of Supervisors running for California Assembly District 30, Robert Rivas.
So I want to thank Teresa Mack for the invitation to be here. Teresa, I want to thank all the previous speakers. I couldn't have said all those same words, with such clarity. Certainly, I am a county supervisor in San Bernardino. I'm also a candidate for state assembly, and I am proud to be endorsed by unions, California Teachers Association, by SCIU, and I'm damn proud to be endorsed by the California Nurses Association. So similar to Luis Alejo, I come from a labor background. My grandfather was a farm worker. In San Bernardino County, he faced inequality in the fields in the 50s and 60s. And he decided to stand up and fight for equal rights and for justice for himself and for his fellow workers. With the help of Cesar Chavez, with the United Farm Workers Union, he helped to secure a historic contract for workers right here at Almaden Vineyards in South San Bernardino County. I grew up in farm worker housing, raised by my grandparents and my single mother. I know firsthand what organized labor has meant to my family and thousands of other hardworking families in the Salinas Valley. Labor helped to get me and my family out of poverty and has lifted up thousands of other working families right here in the Salinas Valley. That is why I'm here today, to stand with our nurses and to stand with other unions throughout this country, because we must stand together and we must work together. Unions are a part of the fabric of this country. They have helped build strong communities in every state and in every city in this country. In December, the Trump administration declared war on unions and filed a brief supporting corporations and opposing working families.
Down with Trump!
I am proud to stand with you and against Donald Trump.
That's right.
I will be here fighting with you every step of the way in support of our right to organize. Nurses are vital to our communities. The work you do is critical, and know that I support you 100%. The people of the Salinas Valley support you. So let's work together, let's protect our rights to organize, and let's do this working together. Thank you so much.
Thank you again, Supervisor Rivas, for coming out to stand with the CNA nurses. We want to thank everyone for their efforts and their commitment to standing in solidarity today. We will continue to stand united during these times where dark forces are working hard to divide us. The nurses also want to add thank you to NUHW and all the other community allies that did not get to speak with us today. And with that, we want to close with a chant. Union Nurses United will never be defeated. Union Nurses United will never be defeated. Union Nurses United